Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Reckoning of Roku chapter analysis video. This one's going to be for chapter 28, which is called The Path of Least Resistance. Just before I start, if you would like to help support the channel, I do have YouTube channel membership enabled, and that's a good way to help, and subscribing is also very good. But let's get into this one here. It's a relatively short chapter. We are back with Roku and of course Ulo, as we get a little bit more information, but it's still sort of the early stages of this kind of plot point here. So Roku once again wakes up, but this time he wakes up and Ulo is still sort of meditating. Roku is still kind of aching, still kind of recovering. He still can't really use his bending, and so he just about manages to kind of prop himself up. But the second he does, Ulo kind of snaps out of his meditation and gives Roku some water, of course. So then we address the interesting plot point from the last Roku and Ulo chapter, which was, how does Ulo know that Roku is the Avatar, given how isolated the clan is and stuff like that? Ulo says, your aura, as if it was the most obvious fact in the world. Your aura, it burns like the sun. And so Roku asks, you can see my aura? I can. And this obviously requires explanation, because I think a lot of us are like, wait, what? Roku is skeptical. In the Fire Nation, it was said that only the fire sages from ancient times were close enough to the spirits to perceive the specific shape of a person's energies. Long ago, that's how they'd identify the Avatar. But as time went on and the divide between humans and spirits widened, the fire sages had to develop less direct methods. The only people who were purported to possess such a skill these days were charlatans attempting to separate the naive from their silver. So I still feel they don't properly explain what this is, or at least I feel like we've never really had too much of a foundation in what exactly this means. Because it's one thing when you say like a firebender character when it comes to sort of like aura sensing, because we literally have confirmation of a fire technique that like the Bonte clan have. That's sort of a fire spirit sensing technique that can also be used to sort of to a certain degree heal someone's spirit. That's a technique that they have. But the idea here that apparently benders of any element, because again Ulo is a water bender, can learn to see someone's aura, which I'm guessing because of the way it's described here, it burns like the sun, and that it can be used to identify the Avatar. Obviously the idea is Ulo can look and sort of sense Roku and immediately get the sense that there is an immense potential there that is very clearly the Avatar. Still feel a little bit like, well, what's going on here? But I guess the idea is that this is a bit of a ancient skill that requires a certain amount of spirituality to be in place. Still don't overly know what to make of it, but like the assumption here would be that this is not necessarily a specific form of any bending, but it is just sort of a almost like a Guru Patik chakra style thing here, where if you're spiritual just in general and you get to a certain point, you can sort of sense someone's energy in that way. So interesting one there, but not really sure what to make of it at the same time. So yeah, Ulo even says, I can tell you don't believe me, that's okay, but it is an honor to meet you, Avatar Roku. I've lived a long time, but never had the chance to meet any of your prior incarnations. And even that line, I'm a little bit like, what do you mean by that? Like, because it's unclear like how much he knows about past avatars, obviously, because timeline-wise, if he has a normal lifespan, it's okay, current avatar Roku, and then Kyoshi's been the avatar for the last kind of 230 years. So is he implying he's actually really, really old, or is he just saying that even though I am quite old, I've never met another avatar. There's a bit of a like, what do you mean by that? But I think I'm maybe reading a little bit too much into that. So Roku's just like, you're the chief of the Lombok clan, right? Yes. I'm not familiar with it. Roku's like, you're a mixed community, yes? Waterbenders and stuff like that. One of those that cut themselves off from the rest of the world to resist joining one of the four nations. But Ulo says, however, I would not say we resisted joining as much as we resisted colonization, subjugation, and forcible segregation, then annexation. Non-benders and benders of all elements have lived here together peacefully for hundreds of years, and we intend to keep it that way. Now, this is an interesting one because, again, there is a bit of vagueness surrounding the timeline of this island, where sometimes they use hundreds, sometimes they allude to it being thousands of years. And I think there's going to be a reference that highlights that it's potentially a lot older than that. I definitely get the sense that it is leaning into the direction of more being like thousands of years, if that's what we're actually doing here, rather than it just being a couple of hundred. Now, I get, obviously, when they say hundreds, that can mean like 2000, it can mean like 2000 years, but I suppose we're just dealing with a long enough time period that it's hard to really make too much sense of what's going on here. But the idea here realistically has to be that the history of this island and the clans to a certain degree does predate the four nations, to the point where the four nations formed, they weren't immediately like asked to join anyone like they kind of talk about here. But again, that's just they're not trying to particularly lock down information. And again, Ulo is of course noted for not really telling the truth about a lot of this stuff. So how accurate is what he says here? I'm not really sure what to make of it. But yeah, Roku's just like, okay, we intend to keep it that way. That explains the fog. It will be a few days before the waterbenders are ready to go again. We have others, but they're young and they need more training before they can do that level of waterbending. So the hope, like Ulo says here, is just that no one else comes to the island in the meantime. So Roku does consider, like, again, the cave, and it's like no one should have that level of power. That's what he really now needs to kind of deal with effectively. He wants to ask and be rather Fire Nation focused and be rather direct asking about this, but decides that, okay, I'll use probably a bit of Sister Disha advice here and take the path of least resistance and just see where this goes, and hope that maybe Ulo gives something away about the cave overall. It would be wrong to directly ask, because that would kind of give away the game. It would suggest Roku knows more than he actually maybe does. Ulo then asks Roku, what brings you to the island? Of course, Roku does explain basically everything except some stuff surrounding Sozin and the fact that Sozin might have kind of ulterior motives, basically. But Roku goes, it's understandable that your people attacked out of self-defense, but the Earthbenders are not here to harm any of you. Ulo disagrees a bit with this. In one breath, you say they have come here to steal our resources. In the next, you say that they will not harm us. But of all people, certainly the Avatar must understand that to harm a land is to harm its people. And Roku just says, I'm here to ensure they don't do either. And again, he's getting tired once again. He just says, tell your clan to stand down, help me find the Earthbenders, I'll convince them to leave and never return. And Ulo is just like, a logical idea, but you need to rest more. We'll discuss this. I'll introduce you to the village when you get back up. But Roku again tries to argue, like, but no, the Earthbenders, like, I really need to do something. They are of no immediate threat. And Roku again goes back to sleep. So the grogginess once again returns. So interesting one there right at the end in terms of Ulo really cutting off the idea of, now that we know something kind of mysterious has sort of happened to the Earthbenders, where like Malaya has completely lost track of them. They seem to have just vanished. Like the trail goes to a certain point, but then they're not there. And it doesn't seem like they're sophisticated enough to kind of hide in plain sight. So it's kind of giving away a little bit of, oh, the clan have acted and You know, have they taken out the Earthbenders? Have they decided to take them hostage? Has something more interesting or different happened? It's a little bit unclear here. But I would say overall an interesting chapter. I maybe would be a little bit critical of some of the vagueness here, mainly when it comes to, I think, the whole aura sensing thing. I'd like to know a lot more about it than what they explored in this chapter, because that's super interesting, but I don't really, even from like 2 paragraphs of explanation, really get too much of a sense for like what the idea necessarily is of that. That would definitely need more focus. And then again, the back and forth of how old are we talking here with this clan? Is it a few hundred years? Is it thousands of years? I wish someone would just say clearer what the deal is here, and you know, especially when it comes from a character who we know is lying about a lot of things, what actually is the situation here. But you know, I like Roku kind of being aware that there's more going on, but also being aware of the situation he's in, that he can't just come out and be super suspicious, otherwise something is going to happen. That, like, it's lucky that they know he's the Avatar and kind of in a way knew not to kind of kill him. But if he lets on that he actually knows what's going on, he could be in a bit of trouble. So Roku kind of playing it safe here. And again, fascinating to see where exactly this one goes, as we're kind of waiting for, the plots have already crossed over a little bit now, but now we're waiting for them to sort of recross over once again. So I think that's pretty much everything I want to talk about here. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, especially in this one. What do you make of the whole Ulo can sense Roku's aura situation? What do you compare that to in terms of stuff we've seen before? Is it meant to be sort of Bonte tribe type thing, or just some sort of a spiritual sensing type thing? Kind of like Guru Patik, I think, is more of the angle there may be going on. What are your thoughts there? And again, timeline stuff when it comes to hundreds or thousands of years. What do you make of it? But yes, for now, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.